a big thing that I found, when you start to lose some of your own clients, that's a good time to jump also. If you are too bogged down with your regular day job and you're starting to lose some clients, you need to focus more on your own clients, because at the end of the day, you're going to make far more money if that's what your goal is, financial freedom, to actually get out of where you're at. Sometimes you need that struggle of a month or two, but in the end, the time horizon, it will all be worth it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Ecom Life with me, Phil Kiel. A long time coming, this episode. A number of weeks have passed since I last uploaded an episode. I'm going to record a clip running through what I've been doing over the past few weeks. Some very exciting, although I believe some very exciting activities going on. I've been down to London to see Facebook or Meta in their head office in London, so that was pretty cool. That doesn't usually happen very often, so definitely want to share some more details on that. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see some of the things that I got up to down there. But today's episode is an interview with a really cool dude from Twitter called Kevin Thomspon. Known Kevin for a long time now. Plenty of back and forth on Twitter, and we've also previously spoken on a couple of calls, and I really sort of appreciate and respect where he's coming from, and he's got some really good experience in the world of, having a job, building up a bit of a side hustle, a freelance career in the background, and then exiting a career and starting to build out a ecom agency. So if that's what you're looking to do, if you're looking to, exit the career that you're currently in and build a business for yourself, then I definitely recommend listening to this episode and reaching out to Kevin, because I'm sure he'd be up for answering any questions you've got. So yeah, Kevin Thomspon currently building his marketing agency called BOLDR Marketing. That's on Twitter, BOLDR, letter R, Marketing. So feel free to give them a follow and reach out to Kevin if you've got any questions. I'll leave his Twitter link in the show notes. But yeah, apologies for the long time between uploads. I'm sure you can appreciate pretty busy at the moment. But I definitely want to, get back into the swing of things. So long time coming. Hopefully it's been worth the wait. If you're watching this on the video, I also apologize for the mess that's in my background. Mentioned on a number of episodes ago, we did some painting and decorating in the office at home. And this is one of those final pieces before we can get it looking pretty polished. So I had a bit of a leak a long time ago on the chimney stack, and that's finally been repaired. New plaster, that's currently drying out. When the plaster's dry, get it painted, put some shelves up, get some pink and blue ambient lighting. That's what everyone seems to do. Get some shelves up, get some plants, and then we can go full on podcast studio. Get some egg boxes on the walls, and we can make this a real thing. So looking forward to seeing that. But enjoy the episode. We start the episode just catching up on the last time myself and Kevin had chatted, and then we jump straight into seeing what he's up to. Enjoy. When we caught up a couple of months ago, I know you were sort of talking about you were, if I'm correct, you were working at an agency. You'd left to pursue building your own agency. Is that correct?
Yep.
How's that going?
Dude, it's going a lot better than I anticipated, and also a lot more of a grind than I anticipated. You said it would be a lot of hours, and it is, but it's actually going really well.
So that's quite interesting that you would think both those things together would be like the opposite of each other. So you're saying it's going better than you anticipated, but it's actually a lot more hard work than you thought.
The results are happening a little more in terms of just getting more leads in the door, actually servicing clients well. But it's the little things that are harder and are just actually scaling out my entire team, instead of previously where I was just managing a media buyer here and there and stuff like that, like a little small team. But now I'm trying to actually do a lot more of that. And then the financial side of running an agency, that is one thing where I'm just learning every day and kind of going from there.
So if we focus on the first bit, were you really surprised by sort of how easy it was to talk to new leads and getting new clients on board.
Yeah, and just also like because I was freelancing for a long time on the side, so I did have like a little bit of background doing that stuff, but putting more of like effort and thoughtfulness into my pipeline and continuously making that happen, because whenever I was freelancing, I would hit capacity just because it's me. And I had nobody else that I could just be like, hey, this is a quote unquote smaller account. I'll do the observation of what you're doing, but at the end of the day, it's most of their work and I'm just overseeing it after. And it's just putting more of that effort into the pipeline is something that I didn't anticipate to work as well. Because I was like, I've always done very stop and start for my own acquisition of clients. But now I just know there's always a client that will leave at some point, whether you're giving them great results or not. Like, it's just part and parcel of what we do. So having that consistent pipeline, consistently being proactive on doing tweets, making video content, putting stuff on LinkedIn, like, and repurposing stuff. That's where it's like, oh, this is working well, but it is more effort than I initially thought it would be, obviously. But like, obviously, when you get into running a business, you encounter things that you never thought you would even have to worry about.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's got to be a blessing that, I mean, it sounds like you are bringing on new clients. You're speaking to more leads. Like, so yeah, like that's got to be a blessing that hard work is paying off.
And thankfully, better quality leads. Because before, when I was freelancing, it was a lot of like very new brands. Now I'm talking to people that are actually like doing 250,000 a month and like have a baseline of advertising previously and stuff like that. Whereas before, I'm trying to help them distinguish which is your best channel to start with and kind of build you from there. So it's a little bit different of a ball game, but I'm enjoying that.
God, it sounds like a success so far, even though if it is hard work. But there's got to be a quote. Is there a quote, and it's like nothing worth having comes easy or something like that.
You know, something like that. I don't remember the quote. It's like anything worth having is, I don't know. I forgot what the quote is. Got to go through some trials and tribulations to get what you want, though. That's what my summary is going to be for that quote.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned, you touched on that second piece, which I think is quite interesting, which is like you're trying to build a team. It sounds like that bit is, and I know our experience has grown over like the past like 4 or 5 years, like building a team, hiring, finding the right people, culture. Those things are 10 times more difficult than like media buying in an account.
Fostering like a goodwill around everybody, making everybody feel involved. Because like one of my biggest conscious things that I took away from my last job and last few jobs that I've had at like an agency was like making every team member feel like they have a voice and just making them feel like they're a part of the success of whatever we're working on. Because no matter what, like if it's a customer success agent or just somebody that's a media buyer, they all have an integral role with the client success at the end of the day and helping us be a role in their brand success and go from there. So just trying to build people up and keep them happy, but also help them kind of just feel rewarded for whatever they're doing day to day.
I know, which must be easier in person.
So much easier in person. When I used to work in person with people, like you can actually go up, have conversations, and you can notice when people are having an off day easier. One big thing that I took away from event, I think I saw like Shackelford, a few other guys out there and stuff like that. It was these daily, like they call them temp checks, where it's like if I bring up my Slack every morning, our team members will get sent like a daily check-in where it's out of 1 to 5, how like is your energy 1 to 5? How are you feeling emotionally? 1 to 5. Productivity wise, are you 1 to 5? Clarity on what you're doing, and then creativity. And if somebody's continuously kind of having like a low energy or low productivity, you got to have, or even emotionally, you got to have these conversations like, hey, what's going on? Like, it's not going to detract from what we're doing on a day to day. It's just got to do that check in. And sometimes it's good to not put somebody in a call that is just distraught that day or something like that, because that's the biggest thing we've had to navigate. And when I stumbled on that, I was like, oh my God, this is pretty good. As long as people are honest with them, that's all I can kind of go from.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. So will you get the replies?
Yeah, it's all in a channel. Everybody puts in, no matter what, just so everybody knows if somebody's having an off day, we don't just bombard them. And like, it's not just like secret that's kept with me. I won't go into that channel and be like, hey, what's going on? Why do you feel like this? Like, I'll go and have a call with them personally and just casually ask them how it's going. And is there anything that I can do? Is like there a bottleneck that I don't know about? Like what's going on? Or if it's not work related, then sometimes you just got to give somebody the afternoon off, recover, recharge, and go from there.
Yeah, don't be saying to them, stop saying that you're a 1. You got to change that to a 5.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, the man management skills of that does not work very well. So, yeah, I just try to be as nice as possible, but just understand where they're at, because it's hard. Like you said, it's a different challenge from in person to online.
Yeah, we've had to navigate the changes between online and in person over the past couple of years, but I hadn't actively thought about that side of in person, which is like you can sense someone's vibe, like, you know, that they've come in, they've got their head down, you know, they're not saying much, they're usually quite chatty, whereas you wouldn't necessarily pick that up on Slack. Like, if someone's not saying much in Slack, they could just be busy, or they could be, you know, having an off day for whatever reason. So yeah, I appreciate that is missed. Yeah.
And are you guys still in office at all? Like, you said you have an office. Do they come in like a few times a week, or?
Yeah, so we've had around 3 offices now over the past like 4 or 5 years, and we don't have an office anymore. So I think when we probably caught up, it was like within the first 3 months of the year, and we did have an office then. So we went back into an office at the start of this year, so like January 1st, and we'd set up a rota where it was like, you know, these are the days everyone's coming in, and it wasn't like forced coming in, but it was just so that there was an average amongst the team of, you know, not everyone came in on the Tuesday and no one came in on the Wednesday, because that'd be a bit weird. We don't have the office anymore, so I think that speaks volumes on, you know, how that went. I think it was good, but ultimately we performed just as well as a team, I believe, on Slack, and we definitely consulted with everyone, and we do regularly ask people, you know, are you missing not being in office? Because we have had team members move on to other roles primarily for that reason, because they missed that office environment, which we're not likely going to give them, just because we've got a different setup. What we've sort of decided to do is take that office rent and think about what we can do with that money. So, you know, if it's a pretty big event in the summer, if it's a pretty big event at Christmas, you know, like last Christmas we rented an Airbnb for like 2 nights. Everyone got together. That was a really like special time, and we have like a monthly catch up where one month we'll do like a volunteer. So we'll go like if it's like laying a new path at some sort of like, you know, charity place, or, you know, gardening, like volunteering around gardening, and then the next month we'll do something fun. So it's like electric go-karts, paddle boarding. This next Thursday we're doing it's some sort of like in water, like Ninja Warrior type thing. which when we booked it, it was like 2 months ago, and it was like, oh, that'll be good because the water will be quite cold. But if anyone's listening in the UK, like the past week, the temperature's just dropped, so this water is going to be freezing next week. But
you're doing some Wim Hof out here.
Yeah. But that's what we're doing, Wim Hof. That's what I'll tell everyone. So yeah, that's what we're doing with that's how we're, taking that money and using it better elsewhere. A couple of people have said to me, like, what do you think about remote work? And I'm quite confident that, so I worked in offices for 11 years before the pandemic hit. So I worked with a lot of people in a small place, guy there next to me, someone over there. But the people that we've worked with over the past 2 years since the pandemic, I think we've built better relationships because work happens remote, and when we meet up in person, it's not work, it's quality time. And we do have photo shoots, so we do get together and do work for clients. But the majority of the time, it's laptops down, we're outside, it's quality time. Whereas if I think about all those people that I worked with in an office, I didn't want to see them outside because I've been in their personal space for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
That's exactly it. I used to do sales at an agency before I went back to being a media buyer. There's a reason for that also. And it was you see it, everybody in their cubicle all day long. You have these semi-forced conversations. And then I think the good thing that you found for sure is that when you do all these excursions and team building events, like you said, laptops down, you're getting the best of the social aspect of that person rather than them resenting being with you again for the next 3 hours after the previous 8 hours, right? So it's a good little differential. But have most of your team members been people that are coming from the office life? Or do you have some younger team members that really haven't experienced that as much?
I'd say it's a mix. We do have younger team members, just naturally, it's media, it's digital, it's a younger age bracket. We do have a couple of people who haven't experienced that office life. So I think it's natural that at some point they will want to
experience it.
Yeah, for sure. Because, in the office, you get that when you do have friends in the office, you get that after work beers. If you're working in a city, you can go shopping on your lunch. I know at one of my previous jobs, there was a outdoor table tennis around the corner. So it was lunchtime, 60 minutes, table tennis every day. It was great. And I think the personal setup is quite important as well, because obviously I'm married, we've got a kid, we've got dogs, that me working from home works very well. Whereas at the start of lockdown, one of our team members, she was in a flat with a flatmate, both of them working from home. It was a 2-bed flat. Yeah. And then they just had this tiny desk in the kitchen. So that was for 6 months. So that's very different to what my setup is, which is, it works well. Yeah.
They're having cabin fever and you're like, oh, I got this extra room here where I can turn into an office right now. That's what I did. As soon as the pandemic hit, I was like, all right, I'm not going back into the office. Let's construct this monstrosity behind me. And then now it's just I love the fact that I don't have an hour-and-a-half commute downtown Toronto. I don't have to do that twice in a day. And then 3 hours has gone by. All I've done is listen to a podcast on the train. Now it's I've started my day completely different. Take my dog for a walk immediately, actually have a solid breakfast. If I feel up for it, work out. That's far and few between. But stuff like that, just getting that time reclaimed back was a huge thing for me. And why in the future, for us as an agency, I don't think we'll ever go to an office. This could totally change. Somebody could listen to this podcast in 3 years and I have an office. But at this current moment in time, like I don't feel the need for it either. Like we communicate effectively. We use ClickUp for all our project management stuff. So like everything's just pretty seamless right now. But as we grow, you never know. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, I know. I've got a good question for you on that working from home piece. So I for 3 years I had a job where I drove for an hour each way, and it was a great job. I loved it. I didn't think about that commute at the time, and then now I think about it, I'm like, that was that's a waste of 2 hours a day. Like those 2 hours I really enjoyed. It was like Spotify, podcast, music, bliss, an hour each way. And I came back home and I was completely decompressed. I wasn't bringing but the difference, like nowadays, my work does definitely spill earlier and later in the day. But at the same time, like I'm a managing director now of like a 16, 17 person agency. We were responsible for a lot of brands' ad spend, and that wasn't the case back then. So I'm trying to understand if it was that decompression or if it's just I've just got a lot more responsibility now.
I didn't think about it when you first mentioned it, but then it like really rung my head. I'm like, oh, it's a huge aspect when you come home, being able to shut off or already being shut off in terms of you're not wired thinking about, oh, I got to adjust this ad spend. I got to think about the ad copy, some themes, what kind of creative can we make? But you just kind of get in your own world essentially on the way back. And that kind of just like gives you a little bit more revitalization. But now I don't know if it's the same thing as you said in terms of like I have more responsibility now. Like obviously we're not a 17-person agency, but I'm now a business owner and I do have a couple employees, but it definitely bleeds into my mornings and my evenings. Like when I go to golf, I'll be like, all right, I've scheduled everything out. We're all fine. Nothing's going to interfere. And the next thing you go, you get 3 calls mid golf round. And I'm like, okay, just let it go, water off the duck's back and continue golfing. But then there's just like that creeping thought in my head. Oh, when I get home, I got to do this, or just like make a mental note to put this into ClickUp so that I don't forget this for the next time and stuff like that. And that's where I do kind of miss those kind of hour and a half long train rides. But at the same time, like I don't think I could go back currently, just based off of how much of a transition it's been. I literally wake up, one room beside me, go take a shower, come here with my coffee and get to work. So like I can't really complain if that's like where I'm at now.
Yeah, that's the way it's landed, isn't it? So don't be frustrated. I know early lockdown, the ecom boom, clients coming in from every angle. It's like teams growing. And I know me and another team member who were busy managing accounts. We were feeling the pinch, busy, and Steph, the founder, sort of we had a catch up with her, and she said a really good piece of advice, which was like, don't be surprised when, and I'm paraphrasing because it was a couple of years ago, but the main gist of it was like, don't be surprised when you're busy. You've got to expect being busy and find peace in being busy. And as soon as you've found peace and sort of accepted it, that's when you can focus on the work, which will, improve performance, deliver the service that we're being paid to, improve client performance, and ultimately potentially make you less busy. But if you're feeling anxious because you're busy, like all you're thinking about is how busy I am and not actually, doing anything to help. So I think like that angle of finding peace with being busy, it's like a duck. It's like they're on the water, they look very calm, but underneath they're fucking paddling like no one's been like, yeah.
And like also maybe to add on a little bit to that is being busy with client work that you enjoy. That was a big difference for me, going from an agency where I was doing a lot of B2B and I enjoyed e-commerce and I was doing e-commerce on the side. And like the advertising difference from B2B to e-com is just like insane. If you want to do good B2B ads though, make it like e-commerce and trust me, it'll work out pretty well for you. But then just more so being busy with the right clients that you enjoy in a niche that you like, or just find some peace in, that has been a game changer for me. Yes, being busier, but being busier with stuff that I enjoy more, or just people that I enjoy more, founders that are great people, have a great brand, good ethics of how they should operate, and go from there, because bad clients are really what burns you out more than anything in my mind.
Yeah, I think the frustration, I know our most frustrated times is when there's been an issue with a client or a client fit or a product, which fortunately hasn't happened that often, but you do sort of you do over focus on like the negatives, even if it's like 1% of clients, you sort of like over index on that. But I know like the most frustrated times is when we're not able to upskill for any particular reason or get better as an agency or personally, even if we are, work is hard or performance is hard. Like when we're busy, we're struggling, we're trying to improve performance and it's tough, but we're upskilling and we're getting better week on week. Like that's gold. Like, and we're being paid to do it as a service provider. That's the dream. It's when you sort of zoom out and you sort of think, this work is actually sort of making me worse as a provider. That's when there's a conflict.
It's a degradation of like what your standard has become almost. And like, if there's anything that's going to kill your soul more, it's putting out quality of the work that is not up to your standard, but the client is all for it for some reason. And getting out of those bad fits is paramount. Like, yeah.
I know, thinking back to our sort of like first year, I know we definitely made a lot of mistakes around like the sort of brands that we work with, or like how quickly we brought brands on. I imagine you're going through that now.
I've made mistakes. It definitely I took on one brand where I've been in that space for probably 4 years now, getting good results. It was like a women's high-end fashion brand, selling bags that were $400, $500. And it was one of those things where the person was very inundated with ROAS instead of like us building momentum gradually, and having a ironed out testing process, having them actually figure out what is your hero SKU from online advertising. It was a great brand, but I just don't think it fit with how we operated. And it bit me in the ass. It was the first refund I ever had to give, because we did the 3-month trial. Things went well. We did good work. We had a good relationship, but somebody said they could do it cheaper. And I was like, you're going to literally pay for this in your sales revenue in the future. We've built you a great base, but I'm not going to keep you if you don't want to stay with us. And then so she already paid for the next month and had to refund it. And in my head, I was just like, I knew from the get-go, based off of our prospecting call, that I shouldn't have worked with this person. And I saw dollar signs rather than being the person that I've been previously as a freelancer. I'd be like, hey, this doesn't actually fit what I can do. My reputation can just go south from this pretty quickly if it doesn't go well. And now I'm thinking far more about that in terms of what will my reputation be if this fails. Like, if I put my best foot forward and it fails, okay, like you did that. But if you have somebody that just doesn't think in any way that's aligned with how you are as an agency owner, or how you test, or even suggesting ad platforms that would be more profitable for them as a new business, then it's just like, I'm just pulling teeth, and I made that mistake for sure.
Yeah, I do think, you've said yourself, you acted in one way when you were a freelancer. You're now building an agency. You've got responsibilities for other people. I do think that changes the decisions that you make, and we've definitely that definitely gets harder as the team grows. And I think that's the main reason why, we do have a cap on the number of people that we want to hire, because when you get to 50, 100 people, a number of things change. But I imagine one of them is, you're bringing on the wrong people, the wrong clients. Sorry, that's
lower tiered clients that you normally would never have worked with in the amount of time that you got to where you were. And now somehow you've got to cover overhead, people's salaries, and make sure people are feeding their families at the end of the day. But that was like a mistake that I had. And then I think another mistake was just like sometimes over communicating when like we needed something ASAP, and realizing that a lot of brands, if they're not going to move fast with direction, not just fast for the sake of move fast and break things. I hate that. But like moving fast with actual direction on the roadmap that you've set out, that's something that does become a differentiator, especially as a new brand. And when it's pulling teeth to like get creative, get like, hey, does this ad copy resonate with your core user? Like, is this a good piece of long form ad copy? Like, yeah, we don't want to test that or like do that. Okay. So making those kind of distinguished decisions and not taking on those clients, not taking on those people that have different philosophies from how we run ads. There's so many ways to skin the cat at the end of the day, but for like longevity's sake for us and just peace of mind for myself, now it's just become where I want somebody that's not fully aligned. Like, it would be fantastic. Nobody will ever be fully aligned on our philosophies, but be aligned enough and challenge me when you think we should be challenged. Because as a brand, you should challenge your agency at all times. But if they have done a very good job with you already and kind of you trust them, you don't need to challenge every little thing. And that was another one where I was like, okay, we gotta change up how we bring on people, what kind of ad copy we're doing, and just like really vet people further.
I know, and I'm sure you'll agree, a lot of those sort of like realizations happen after you've brought the brand on. So, having that foresight is difficult, and hindsight is a curse usually, because,
2020 hindsight.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I would stress for anyone listening who's in a similar situation is try and see what's possible with like trying to educate the brand over time. So let's take, so if the brand's not listening to you today, and you're trying to recommend something, it's like, okay, let's make a mental note and let's try and, over the next 4 weeks, try and make them make 10% improvement towards the direction that we want to go in, because we know it's best practice or whatever. Because I do know that we've got a couple of brands who have been with us for, a year and a half. But when they came on board, their mindset was very different about media buying or any topic specifically. So, and I think it's a great opportunity to give yourself a pat on the back that it's like, we took a potential tough client and we've turned it into a real big, an asset, and the relationship is great. It's like if you can fix those cracks, it's a lot better, and usually from an agency point of view, more profitable than trying to drop them, find someone else.
Break down smaller barriers almost to like get to the transition that you want to have happen, essentially.
Yeah, I think that with remote work, and even that aligns with clients, I think the default is to, I'm going to put this in an email, or I'm going to put this in Slack. And it goes to both team members and clients, is like, have those tough conversations on a phone call, because people can read your emotion a lot better. And in Slack, they can misread your emotion. It can come across like dull, negative, annoyed. Whereas if I think if you're the brand and you're doing something wrong and you're not listening to me and we have a call about it, you're going to sense how enthusiastic I am about my strategy. And in a Slack message, that's just going to come across as me nagging, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no translation in terms of like tonality or any of that, right? Like even the best copywriters are not going to do Slack messages that will make sure your message will get through on that one.
Yeah. And it's like you said about, like, at the start, how are you feeling 1 to 5? You might send that Slack message or that email. They could be having a really tough day. The baby might not be sleeping. They read your message. You're coming across it, and they just think, you know what, sod this. I'm not working with them anymore.
And like that is such a good point that you raise. Is like when you have those tough conversations, don't text, like don't put it in a text format. Essentially, like you have to have. I prefer to have like a face-to-face element, like Zoom worst case scenario, phone call. Hit or miss, because like, yeah, you can hear somebody's tonality, but like when you actually see somebody's face, you're going to be able to read a lot more of their body language and the subtle undertones that they are not going to say. And then you'll be able to, like you said, break down those barriers a little bit easier and get your way, not immediately, but like whenever I suggest a test and it doesn't go the first week, I'll be like, this should be something we should test in like 2 to 3 weeks. It should be a little bit lower down our test stack rank, but eventually this is something that's worthwhile. And then supply some documentation if they're like, I'm not too sure about this. How does this really affect us? Try to have a conversation with some other advertisers and kind of get like a third party opinion and stuff like that. And that stuff is a gem that you just put out, Phil. So make sure to use that, people. Take advantage.
We should sell that content for sure. So last question. If someone comes to you, they're in the position that you were, at the start of the year or last year, where they've got a media buying job, they're thinking about going freelance and starting an agency. What's like the 2 pieces of advice that you'd give them?
Do what I did at first, where you're in your job, you're in your role, do freelancing and get that like base of clients built up for yourself on the side. You're going to have a lot of growing pains when you do this. You're not going to be as good as a salesperson as you think. You're not going to be able to communicate every aspect as well as you'd think. And from there, it's a time horizon at the end of the day. I know we're not the finished articles at all. But I also know that like I've been advertising for 7 years. Like I've advertised radio, newspaper before everybody was talking about that shit on Twitter. It's all about the time horizons, and don't stress yourself if you're still stuck in your media buying job 6 to 7 months after, because you want to have that cash flow, especially in an economy that could be in a downturn. And don't put all your eggs in the basket until you have a good kind of recurring revenue. And a big thing that I found, when you start to lose some of your own clients, that's a good time to jump also. Because if you are too bogged down with your regular day job and you're starting to lose some clients, you need to focus more on your own clients, because at the end of the day, you're going to make far more money if that's what your goal is, financial freedom, to actually get out of where you're at. Sometimes you need that struggle of a month or 2, but in the end, the time horizon, it will all be worth it.
Appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks a lot. I just thinking back to when me and Steph I joined Steph, like 4 or 5 years ago, and that first sort of year we didn't really change that much. Like we didn't, we were managing like 10 grand a month in ad spend. It's like, it's not a lot across clients. That wasn't, yeah. And we didn't get frustrated, because then, after that first year, the rocket took off. And I do agree that like patience is key. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Because like if you really want it, yeah, you can go through the churn and burn to start. I don't recommend it. I've tried to avoid the churn of anything as much as possible. But like the time horizon at the end of the day is really like, just don't stress yourself out about it. That's all I got to say.
Cool. Appreciate it, Kevin. As ever, enjoy talking to you.
Thank you so much, Phil. I appreciate you having me on, and we better catch up soon again.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll put it in again for maybe towards the end of the year, or
yeah, we'll do another 4 months.
I'll see what's happened in the background as well by then.
Yeah, you might have a fire alarm by the time we speak next. We'll go from there.
I know the reason why we don't have a fire alarm. It's not because I'm a psycho and I don't care about fires in the house. It's because any fire alarm we put in there, after a week or two, it'll go off about 4 a.m. And like, we've been in this house for about 10 years, and so often it's like I'm waking up in a panic 4 a.m. and it's like, what the hell's that noise? And then it's the fire alarm in the loft. So it got binned. But
well, yeah, at least I hope the best for you in that room. But that's about it, man. I hope to see a little bit more paint on the back there. We'll see a nice little background and see what you've developed over the next few months.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll keep it as a content pillar on the podcast. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me, man.
So there we have it, Kevin Thomspon. I'm sure you'll agree he's got plenty of experience both in his previous careers and also in building out BOLDR Marketing, his agency recently, both from a client services and then also a team management employer point of view. So as ever, feel free to drop me a tweet if you've got any questions or you'd like to be on the show. And please give Kevin a follow. I'll leave his Twitter link in the show notes. And yeah, hopefully normal uploads will be resumed soon. And look out for that next episode coming soon on what I've been up to over the past few weeks. Plenty of goings on at Hello Earth Agency. New clients onboarding, new team members starting in the last couple of months, and also coming up into the rest of the year and into January. So we are going full pelt. Inflation, energy prices increasing, global doom. We don't care. We're going full tilt and we're building this thing. So, look out for that episode. Cheers all.